all frozen.
So if he's fixed that,
So all that water in the lowest spots in your driveway. So I took my skid steer, dug out both sides or whatever. But in the woods, there was still on the left 18 inches
Yeah.
Oh,
last week.
while you're out there.
And I'm sure this weekend is still
Oh, I'll take them off.
They haven't lost much this week.
And then of course every time
Cold,
somebody
cold.
calls me on the phone,
so cold.
I bought a nice pair of sunglasses.
Think they lost any
They're
today?
polarized.
No.
So I either need to turn the phone
But
90
it was
degrees.
20
to
Yeah,
see
you
it,
can't read the
or-
down
numbers.
here in the
Well, if you
morning.
turn it 90
Up
degrees,
there it was maybe.
Yeah,
it straightens
in the
out. It's
teens,
really
and
bizarre.
Yeah.
My niece and nephew, though,
I get that
they got
sometimes on
50
my-
trees tapped up there.
Dash instrument.
They live up there. and they
Right here.
tap-
Turn
they
it.
do maple
Yeah, that's good.
syrup.
Yeah,
They're different trees. They're running pretty
My
good
dad's
because
caravan,
of
there's
cold
nothing
nights
protecting
Yep.
my dad's instruments. I reach in and stop the odometer with my
And
finger.
but if you get too
Oh,
cold
okay.
a day, then it slows down. But as soon as you get
Oh,
a
it's
hot
gonna be a
day
late
again,
Is it?
Yeah.
Look at all that crap you're sharing.
One down there.
Oh, thank you.
did you bring the little one?
I did not. No, he is.
I charge extra for babies.
You do?
Yep, it's in my contract. Don't you worry.
He is happily
What's
with
that?
his brother and daddy.
What doesn't he
Raleigh's.
charge for?
Raleigh's. There's a little one here. and I
Everything.
charge extra with their babies.
And his mommy and
If you wink at him, he charges you.
Well, you know what they do.
Yeah, I also call other people too.
Never work with children or animals. You know?
I call my mother on the ride home if you wink at her, so that she knows that I need to be checked on later. You been out playing with bonfires, Mr. Sloan?
Rubbed up against my stove.
Oh, keep yourself warm that way, do you?
Yeah.
It keeps warm.
Yes, he keeps very warm.
For a week, and wow, it was lots of shooting. But that's
Wasn't
where-
paying enough
that's
attention
shooting-
and the pipe got me.
shooting at those
You're
tires.
better now.
They are fast.
Well, past a year.
Well, you might get a
That was down here, not up north.
Yeah.
This spring is.
Yeah, they're not the brightest.
Late winter has not been
How's
kind of
everybody doing fun out?
3 hours.
Yeah.
It's 3 hours.
Yeah.
Where?
So, terrible cold.
Are we going to be
And
able
then
to
like a week
talk
and a
here?
half off. And then I had pneumonia.
I don't know. It's,
Well, you
it's
don't deserve
baseball
that.
season, so I'm
No, but it's
officially.
too cold. It's too
Come on,
cold.
spring.
It was 60
Are you
for
about
a
ready,
week.
Scott?
That's not too
Exactly.
No, that's not like
Now we're ready?
We need to send you to the hospital.
Everybody here ready?
I go, I'm going home for observation.
Okay, you ready?
And I s- and they-
You're gonna do a time, call to order?
I'll call to order.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the City of Muskego Landfill Standing Committee for April 1st, 2019 at 5:01 PM. Would the secretary please read the roll?
Sure, Emily Smith.
Here.
Patrick Murray.
Here.
Mark Slocum.
Here.
Michael Colling.
Here.
Gary Schweitzer.
Here.
Or Harvey Schweitzer, sorry. Don Matika Senior.
Here.
Alderman Eileen Madden. Here. Greg Burmeister.
Here.
Roland Kiefer.
Here.
Jay Warzinski. Not here.
No.
Mike Hackney.
Here.
Joel Spear Jr.
Here.
Scott Kramer is recording secretary, and then I wrote the guest name, and your name is, one is Jeremy, what's
John Wonders.
John?
I'm Jeremy. John,
Jer-
just gonna.
Jeremy and John Wonders, okay? And are you from town of Norway too?
Yes.
Okay. Statement of public notice, the meeting was posted in accordance with the Wisconsin open meeting laws.
Approval of the minutes of the January 7th, 2019 meeting. How do you wish to move? Is there a second? Mr. Murray seconds. Corrections, additions, discussion? Upon hearing none, all those in favor of the minutes as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are accepted unanimously. Open forum. At this time, we allow a 5-minute period for anyone from the community to talk about landfill issues or anything they see on the agenda. if you'd so like to speak now, or we have another one at the end of the meeting.
I guess the reason I came, I just wanted to see exactly what this was all about. Someone had posted online that you guys have the meeting with regards to the landfill, stuff like that. I live over towards Wind Lake, and I've just noticed that we've been getting quite a bit of smell coming over that direction. I noticed it's been pretty bad, especially on Loomis there. It's pretty consistent right in front of like Muskego Lakes Country Club. Seems to be about the worst of it. And then with regards to where we live, it just seems that like wind direction sort of affects that. So I just wanted to come and sort of see what was going on with your committee and understand how this all
What is your
works.
address?
24849 West Loomis Road.
Where's that in regards to the Muskego Lakes Country Club?
I'm over by Cooler by the Lake. The
You're where?
tavern between Sportsman's Landing and Cooler by the Lake.
You're down by Sportsman's Landing?
I'm between Sportsman's Landing and Cooler by the Lake. And
And
John
you're-
lives on the other side of the canal down even further, and sometimes we're getting the smell creeping over that way. So we just want to know what's going on here. And I just am kind of curious how the landfill works here, how big it's going to get, where it's going, and what we're doing. So that's kind of my inquiry as to how far it's going to go, because I know I see a sign up on the old Loomis, the frontage road there for, I think it's John's or Advanced or something like that, that there's an entrance. I'm just wondering how far this pile is going to go.
Don't know we'll be able to answer that question because that's somewhat unknown. We do know the limit of the current expansion that they're in.
What is that? How far can they currently go with what they have?
Ultimately, right now, the furthest they can go west is the power lines at the moment.
Okay.
But things can change. It cost a lot of money to move those power lines. I think about $1 million a pole, if I remember right.
Yeah, last time I checked.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive, but there's also a lot of profit in a landfill. So you just don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's why I just want to find out what's going on and what the plan is, because, you know, my house is my biggest investment. And
Sure.
if I'm looking at a pile of garbage coming closer to it and the smell that, you know, if my neighbors are listing their house right now for sale, and if they get people to show up to buy a $650,000 house and they can't sell it because it smells like garbage in their front yard, that don't make me very happy. I'm sure it wouldn't make a lot
Have
of
you
other people
have you
happy.
ever reported the smell?
No, I haven't. I'm just starting to investigate this because, like I said,
the fact is, westerly winds prevail here.
Mhm.
You know,
Yep.
because I live right south of in the town of Norway, and I very seldom, I'm only a mile away, I very seldom get a smell from the landfill. Driving on 45, yes, you will. You
That's
know,
pretty consistent there, yeah.
But not south and not east, you know.
Yeah.
And this is wind would have to be a direct northeast wind for you to get any smell at all, you know.
And we've had those recently.
This winter, it's been pretty consistent over there by us,
Yeah.
and already this past few months.
Okay.
So what you're saying is every time,
Are you saying morning or night, day, or?
yes, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like you to just call me sometime then. I'll give you my card. I'd like
Okay.
to drive down there
Sure.
because I know a lot of people down in the area, south and east, and I haven't never heard a complaint yet, you know.
Well, the only reason I found out about this opportunity to even be here is there was a post on one of the neighborhood apps where all sorts of people started talking about it and lighting up and going, I smell this and we smell that and everything else. I'm surprised there's not more people here because,
Have we had any reports of that? No.
well, I think a lot of people
I mean-
probably don't know who to contact.
All you have to do is contact the city. The city would tell you who to contact.
Yeah. Well, we're here.
I know my wife
I'm
has
here.
made several calls to
I'm here.
here and not been able to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
To here? To the
here.
landfill?
Yes.
What's your wife's name?
Carolyn
I
Wonders.
talked to her last week. That's
So
the
she did finally get it.
first time I've talked to her.
Oh, hi. So she did finally get in touch with that. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not saying that I've called a bunch of times. I'm just starting to investigate this. I've smelt it on occasion, and it seems like it's becoming more frequently.
Okay.
So I'm just essentially doing what I can to try to figure it out. I do know when they posted on the neighborhood app, a bunch of other people said, hey, I smell that too. They posted that there was a meeting at 5 o'clock today. I actually called, I must have maybe talked to you, or I'm not sure.
Today?
Yeah.
We spoke.
Just to find out where the address was, just to come find out how this works, what the deal is, and I mean, that's how you get stuff done, you know.
How long have you lived there?
I've been there about 3.5 years.
And this is the first that you've noticed the odors?
Consistently, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed it once in a blue moon before if the winds are right, but it never really dawned on me what it actually was because it was kind of a faint odor. And then all of a sudden I started smelling it a little bit more at the house, and what really kind of tipped me off to it is going up 45 by Muskego Lakes every day when I go to work. All of a sudden I'm smelling this real pungent smell, and it reminds me of driving through Kokona up along the highway there, where I used to smell like that burnt popcorn, terrible garbage
Paper,
smell.
yeah.
You know, and all of a sudden it started dawning on me what was going on, and
That
I'm
was
looking out.
so many paper.
Well, whatever it was,
Yeah.
whatever it was, it smelled like a garbage.
When you go to
Methane
work,
and-
you sit on Highway 45 or Highway 36?
Up Loomis, right in front of Muskego Lakes
Highway
Country Club
36,
there is where I noticed it the
okay.
worst.
36.
Yeah, 36.
All right.
So,
Yeah, Highway 45 was confusing me.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
yeah, I apologize if I said
Because
45.
45
Loomis,
is
if
right
you're
out
going
in front.
If you're going up Loomis there, from Muskego Lakes Country Club going, you know,
I
northeast
live in
there.
Champions Village, and every once in a while we catch it, but not very often.
Yeah,
This last fall has been more often than not,
right.
but it's
right.
it's not a pungent, I wouldn't call it pungent, you can smell the landfill.
Yeah, well, I mean, from a homeowner standpoint, once I start smelling it, I just wonder if it's gonna keep going or what's gonna happen, so I'm here to talk to you guys and figure out what it is, how big it's gonna be, and, I mean, if that's the case, let me know. If you guys are gonna keep growing, I'll sell my property and I'll move somewhere else. I don't wanna have my biggest investment where I feel like my money is gonna erode.
Okay, well, there will be more discussion on it.
Perfect.
So. Compliance officer report. You're up, Joe.
All right, so we're continuing to do our audits once a week. Since our last meeting and the start of the discussion on the odor, the changes that have been made is there's been repairs to the seeps. The new wells are scheduled mid-April. We still use that date?
Next week, Wednesday.
Okay. New gas wells for the active area are something we've discussed every time. Like I said, the seep's been repaired. There's only one seep that's left remaining open, and the direct connection to the leachate collection system that was open in between the last meeting and this one's been cleared. So the only quote-unquote obvious odor producer is one seep sump on the west slope and the active area. Outside of that, there's been increase in litter, but it's all on site. I haven't noticed any change in odors on or off site. I had a cold today, so I couldn't smell anything when I drove around.
Okay, when you say change from what?
There
Change
hasn't
from
been
the-
any obvious change in when I come out. There's usually an odor on site. If there's an odor off site, it's along Union Church. But if the wind's blowing any other direction, I'm not able to find any other odors.
Okay.
I haven't noticed an increase or decrease in odors based on the changes. The phone
Based
calls,
on the changes that have been done to the landfill?
Correct.
Okay.
and the odor complaints are down compared to what they were at the last meeting, at the time before the last meeting, where they were, I was getting 4 to 5 a week. I'm now getting 1 to 2 a week, and before we were getting multiple calls on one day, we're only getting 1 call. I'm not getting anything directly to me. It's either going to Scott. Scott, is that going through the clerk or?
Yeah, it goes
Okay.
to the clerk, and then I forward it on to Joe and Eileen. So why I asked to the clerk is just part of the contract, and then the ones that record it, and then I push it on to Joe and Eileen right away.
And my other complaints come from Eileen.
And they're not the same as
No, they're
Scott's.
not. Yeah.
They're two different.
Oh, yeah.
sets.
And I forward them on to Mike because we seem to have left him out.
And I usually, poor Mike, I usually send them to you the
Yeah,
same
you-
time I send them to Joe.
That's good. I'd rather get them that way than not get them at all.
Anything else, Joe?
Unless you want me to go over the year end at this point.
Just bring it up and point it out to the rest of the committee, that it's available now.
Here's the summary. I set one out for everybody. The committee has, of course, the whole package. There's a disc, it'll be on the city's website in a couple days when Daniel takes care of it, so access to it. It's just the entire year of audits. In years past, I've done this, and now it's had to be an issue. On page 5 of 7 is the odor control. That's not all audit-based. A lot of that is the calls I've gotten and so on, and a discussion on the odor. I tried very hard not to mention what's being done in the next year unless it's already been started. So it is
Good.
all past discussion.
Good.
There were no action items. The only quote-unquote lack of compliance is the landfill hasn't supplied the city with a schedule for the cleaning of, for the stormwater maintenance plan. Though at the same time, I don't think the city's bothered to really request one either. So it just sort of, it hangs on there. It's been hanging on the end of my report since 2015.
I thought we did that last year.
We discussed it.
Well, who at the city is supposed to take care of that?
No, I'm not picking on Scott, but I mean, you know, it was the engineer before Scott, it's Scott, but it really comes down to the fact that the DNR signed off on, they don't have to do any scheduled maintenance, they do maintenance in a timely manner, and they could actually just forward that on to the city, and maybe the city's received that as that's the concept. And so I mean, it's not this big issue, it's, the city paid me money to do a stormwater review, and I feel like that since I was paid for it, I should make the constant reminder until somebody tells me to stop.
I will look into it, and we'll see what we do. I'll check with Dan, what we've done in the past, and then maybe we can just get forward what Mike has, and that might be all we need to do and have it on file.
Sure.
You address the basins periodically, not on a particular schedule, right?
Like, 2 years ago, we did set basin 3, we cleaned it. It was all part of final cover
Right.
project that we were doing. And this year, we started set basin 1, and we're gonna start that again tomorrow, finish it up tomorrow.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, it's as we see
Mm-hmm.
the basins filling up with silt like they're designed to do.
Right. And we haven't recorded any instances where they didn't have enough freeboard either, so. Anyone not get a copy?
I did.
Believe it or not, I didn't get one.
Yours is right there, or right here.
Oh, it's in the front?
Issued.
Thank you. Sorry.
Issue.
Well, when you asked for 2, I was trying to save you money.
Gotcha.
That's all I have.
Okay. Status of projects, clay extraction?
None today, probably won't have any this year.
None
Other
for
than-
2019?
Right.
No backhauls, no anything from?
Well, I guess when you say extraction, I mean in-place stuff won't be extracted, but there may be some clay backhauls, yes.
From stockpiles?
Yes.
Okay. But in terms of excavation, nothing?
Nothing for this year.
Okay. Household hazardous waste.
All right, so I've got lots of trees for everyone.
There's plastic bags going around.
Yeah, I know. I can go by the window.
Might be ghosts.
Don't take
Might be ghosts.
So the double, you'll get one that's double-sided. That is the final report from
All 3 of them.
20, what year are we?
So, how much of the budget does this cut into, all this color printing?
I just want it easy for you.
Send it down.
Let's Rolly you have to appease.
So yes, everyone's getting 3 sheets of paper. So the double-sided one is the year end, and then the one where the printer refused to listen to me and not do double-sided, that's current year.
How far are we going?
Yeah.
We're going all the way.
I'll get one if there's.
That's all of the
extra.
different sites that we have and.
So the good news is we were about
Let's-
4.
Okay, go ahead.
He doesn't have one.
Run down here.
Mike needs one? Can't leave him out.
I guess,
You need one down there?
we paid for it.
Only half, Mike.
I need
Only
one.
half.
Are we good?
Where the sites were. Coming on the falls.
All right, now I think we're good.
We'll share.
All right, so now that everyone's ready for the good news, yes, I would just like to point out that Rebecca I don't believe I forgot to share this good news We were, under budget last year by about $4,000. So that, I want to thank everyone
That's
for their
gonna be for-
continued efforts in
Yeah, that's-
reducing household hazardous waste. December
That's
was
awesome.
a low month, which it always is. We only have one site open in December.
Okay, I've got a question for you,
Yes.
and I'm on, I don't know which page it is, but
That's
that,
this year.
okay.
So yes, I'm with you.
And that is at the year end, right?
Nope, that's this year.
We're looking at table 2.
Table 2,
Yep. Budget remaining 308,000?
that's for 219?
Yes.
Okay.
So we've spent about.
Because, see, that confused me, because the top of it says 218 program budget, so,
Yes, I see that.
All right.
I will get her to change
So
that.
far, we used
Okay.
16 grand, we got 308 grand.
so that's 219.
Yep, it didn't carry over. It was changed on the other one. Which I don't know why it's not.
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So looking at the totality of the two reports, last year, we ended a little over $4,000 under budget. This year, where we are right now, as compared to where we were last year, we're slightly under where we were last year at this time. So hopefully that trend continues. You'll notice that the costs are substantially lower than where they were last year at this time. And that's because they just didn't, in February, gain enough waste to actually ship it out and be paid. So there was waste collected, but in order to save money, they only ship it when they get a full load.
This is
So all of the
218.
costs for that collected
Yeah.
wastes are not
That makes more sense.
reported yet, which is pretty typical. That's also, we are following up, we have not yet gotten the number of people that have used the site, so you'll see all of the div zeros for cost per participant and things. We just, despite trying to get those numbers, we're not able to get them in time for me to print the report for you today. We will have that data, though. They are still tracking that data.
Okay. What happened to the $4,000 at the end of last year?
So, the budget remaining would have been just absorbed, I believe, back, because there wasn't,
Was it credited to 19?
It should be credited 19. We, from this committee, we provide 156,000, I think it is.
Yep.
And that's not for the county to take at the end of the year and say, gee, we did a great job, and use it for something else.
But the total cost of the program is $320,568.
I understand that.
So we have a 4,400 remaining.
But it's the same way, if you don't use it, you lose it. That's how municipalities work usually.
All
Now-
It's also when you spend the money.
government, school.
It is because it is the 100, and I'll verify with our budget department, but the way it used to work was that, and this is from my reading old reports, so I may need a better understanding of this, but it used to be where the first $156,000 were billed directly to, like Veolia and the landfill exchanged that money directly. And then once you hit the 156, that's when it goes into the county funds. And so now the 156 is turned over to the county, but that's the first money that continues to still be the first money expended, is my understanding.
You're probably right. You're probably right. So if there's any savings at the end of the year, the county gets it, rather than having any money to carry over into the next year.
And likewise, if there are overages, I believe it's the county that's.
I got it. All the confusion occurred back when the Veolia said, we've had enough of this, and they sent all the excess to the county, and then the county had to portion it out for 4 years. Back when we had the big surplus, I'm trying to remember the dates, but there was a time where the county was holding the money from the landfill. And that was when the arguments really started about whose money was what at the end of every year, and the argument that it got moved forward held weight. But I with my understanding of the history, it sounds to me like it may not be the way it was written down to be spent, but the committee's money is spent first. So any money left over is technically the county's.
And if it was, like you said, an overrun, that'd be on the county's part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Several years ago, there was discussion about some of the other landfills in the general area were expanding. I believe it was Menominee Falls. And the county was going to try and get monies out of them to help this same program. Has that ever happened?
That's not quite right. I made the recommendation and had a conversation with Rebecca. She never ever, I mean, I tried really hard. She never ever committed to have any kind of weighty discussion with the landfills.
I guess I thought she had said she was going to get her boss to look into that because he was on that committee.
Yeah, Muskego has a unique experience with accomplishing, the host agreement that they have. So I mean, but it was recommended that both Milwaukee County and Racine County and Waukesha County push the next time they were in agreement to, make apples to apples, oranges to oranges, have all the host agreements similar and have the same funds put in.
Well, at least get something out of these other landfills. I mean, it seems kind of strange this is the only one that does it.
Questions on household hazardous waste? Thank you.
I got one, sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Joe.
From when we did the audit a couple of years ago, when Rebecca started, when they do their next one around, try to see if you can get them to tell you how many trucks they used. Because often I found those numbers when they jump, even though that they only store it once, so you may have partial shipments. So you may see a bigger jump in the next quarter than you would expect because they got rid of everything. They didn't, they don't hold it until they have a full truck every time.
Okay.
Am I making sense? Sorry.
Yes, I am. But it's important that Elise understand.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else on household hazardous waste?
I just wonder how many people didn't avail themselves in February because of the weather. And will we see a big jump once the weather really truly breaks?
That is, all of this stuff is so weather dependent. I can tell you from some of our other events, attendance has been down. And there was one day where one of the HHW sites in January was closed. It was that, 30 below zero day, which I was appreciative they called and proactively asked if they could close, because you might as well save the staffing costs and safety of the workers and things to that nature. So it wouldn't surprise me if we do see a bit of a bump. But really, our heaviest month is typically June, because that's when we start getting some of those satellites. So anything to say year projections prior to those June satellites, I think is a little premature.
Yeah.
Right. Agreed.
Anything else? MMSD project. How's your gas?
We did a media swap last week, and that media, the purpose of the media is to limit the siloxanes in the gas and some of the moisture. So the last time we did that was about 6 months ago. So we found out that the media will last roughly 6 months, and then we change it out.
It makes no difference the time of year?
No. Well, no. The moisture limits are higher during the winter months because of the freezing. It all goes off ground temperature, from what I understand. And then they'll lift those moisture, or lower the limits, I'm sorry, they'll lower the moisture limits in the gas, probably within the next couple of weeks. So throughout the summer, you're able to deliver at a higher moisture content, if you will. But other than that, I mean, we're burning 1,900 CFM a minute, delivering that anyway. So we haven't been that high in probably a couple of months.
Yeah, it's up 200 since the last meeting, right?
Yeah.
We were about 1,700 then.
And they can take everything you can produce.
Everything. They're taking it all.
Good.
Electronic recycling?
Going well.
Good.
Yep.
Residential drop-off?
I've heard no issues.
Looks
I'm
like
not-
we had a banner weekend.
That's with boxes being dumped after Friday too, so, yeah, it's that time of the year, so they fill them up.
It was warm.
I haven't heard, has anybody said anything to the city at all regarding anything? Yeah, it's moving, or operates pretty smoothly right now.
How's work coming on the new facility?
We're getting there. What I'd like to do is probably not move over there until we're gonna move our compost area from the south over to on top of future parkland. So the reason I wanna wait is so that if we get it moved over there, which is a project for us this summer, that I'd be able to direct the residents right back to that area instead of making a bin like you see behind me, where that piles up quite a bit. I mean, so I'd like to say, okay, if you got brush, you're going down here, we'll designate an area within the compost area, we'll block it off, plenty of signs, and say, dump it on the ground here, instead of us having to transport it back. So once we move the compost area to on top of future parkland, then we'll get the containers all staged over there and get the signage up.
Any issues from the DNR standpoint of being on top of future parkland?
They haven't had any issues verbally, so we're just waiting for a permit from them to say, yes, it's fine that you do that, based on you. I'm sure we're gonna have to do a lot of things to it, to protect that cap, which would be basically, they're fine with that as long as you add clay to any cap. They don't like it when you start taking stuff away. Clay.
Sure. So are you doing the compost operation now, or is that subcontracted?
It has been subcontracted, and still is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is the plan, that it will continue to be subcontracted, but are you the one that's,
Managing it. We manage it, subcontracted out. So
Okay.
I've got an individual who comes here and does all the grinding. That's my subcontract.
well, do they do the windrows and everything
Yeah,
else
They do the
too?
windrows and anything else.
Okay.
Hauling it out if they like it.
Okay. Well testing, well water protection area, anything? Mr. Murray, you had a question before? on the results of well water testing? You send out an email?
I sent it out.
You were referring to, there was contaminants, and you were curious why there were different contaminants, so many hits. There were, it was kind of like possibly the bottles were exposed.
And
I think we had
lab
some-
contamination?
Yeah, lab
contamination.
Lab contamination?
Yeah, it seemed like we had a higher number of potential lab contamination as opposed to actual hits. And if they changed labs or processes for preparing the sample containers. I know if you don't do that quite right, then all of a sudden you start hitting things that we've never seen before.
Right.
And it's really all it is your washing system. I think that was my only concern. If they changed their decontamination
Lab procedures?
lab procedure.
Okay.
Right. Because I'm not sure where they're going right now.
Yeah, I don't remember who Frank uses.
I think they use two different labs.
Well, I know they use PACE, but I don't think they use PACE for the well sampling.
They use
No, it's probably Northern, Great Lakes Northern.
I mean,
But I don't
did
remember a bunch of J flags
ESC
in the
get
last one.
back to you at all regarding your
No.
question?
No.
They'd be able to answer that. ESC. would.
Right, yeah. I just made a note to get in contact with them to
Okay.
be able to explain it by the next meeting.
Did they send out something new? Because I don't recall the last well sampling having an undue number of J flags or a sample blank failure.
There probably were 3 or 4, and usually there's like only one. I mean,
It seemed to be an increase.
there was an increase of
Oh.
some anomaly that, and there was something went astray, new employee or something.
I know they sampled the wrong house on one of them, but that's not normally a bad thing.
That doesn't bother me as much as a contaminated sample container.
There is something potentially in the chain of custody all the way through that could have changed.
Or just container handling.
Yeah.
Are you opening those things too early?
Some you don't even open.
Right,
And when you have those have hits, then you start to go, what's going on?
right, right.
And that can occur from contamination on the outside of the jar, and then assuming that there's nothing in it at the lab, and your outside contamination now becomes inside the container contamination
right.
because your procedure. Plan modification issues?
None since our last meeting.
Any planned?
No.
Property protection, sociological, anything there?
We ended up purchasing a home on 8 Mile. And then today I heard from an individual on Rayner Avenue who wants to start exercising his property value guarantee.
You moving, Rolly?
No. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere.
Gonna wait until the land's worth some real money, right? The landfill's finished?
You got it.
I see another house came down too.
Yeah, that one's well overdue to come down.
Yeah.
One next to it's coming down to?
That's not ours. No.
No, but I
That's
saw he
Lisa.
started doing some serious cleaning up after you took that down. I thought maybe you were helping him.
Does anybody know what happened to the ex-mayor?
No. Haven't
I
heard
don't
of
think
it.
there's anybody there. Wieselman?
Huh.
It looked abandoned the other day, that's why.
Weaselman home that looks abandoned?
Yeah, they've cleaned all kinds of, all that stuff that was in that front driveway is gone and.
And they haven't contacted us on the property value guarantee, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, we talked to him a few months ago and he was worried about where the trees were going when we cut them down, the dead ash trees. So I don't know. Yeah. No, I haven't heard from him since then either.
Okay. New business, we have none. Continuing business, update and possible action may be taken on any of the following. Update on odor complaints and anything to do with odor complaints and odor mitigation.
I talked to the contractor this, prior to the meeting, and he'll be here next week, Wednesday, drilling the wells, which will be 5 gas wells that he'll be putting in. And then that'll get followed up with piping, which will be the vacuum lines to those wells. Those wells are all going in the area that we're filling now. The most recent area, I guess I could say.
For the benefit of these gentlemen, the wells that Mike is talking about are going in the active area, which is probably responsible for 90%, 95% of the gas and the odor that we're now getting. And you're saying next Wednesday?
Yep, that's when the contractor will be on site. So the
And-
first well will start probably Thursday, by the time they move in.
And it'll take him, what, a week to do them?
Yeah, 5 of them, it's nothing for them.
But now the odor is gonna increase when they do that.
During the drilling operation, yes.
And that lasts
There's
how
a
long?
possibility,
That lasts
as
about
long as they are drilling. So
a week, you said, or?
roughly, it'll be about a week for 5 wells.
And then after that,
Then it's connecting everything to them.
to them.
And then we've got a SOP for each gas well that comes online, a new gas well. So that takes about a week to get it up to where you gotta get full vacuum to it,
Mhm.
if it can handle the full vacuum.
Okay.
So it's all based on how much, obviously with all of them, how much methane is used.
So what we're looking at, the big picture is that after the 5 are done and the vacuum system is in place, then the odors should rescind.
They should.
About a month and a half?
About a month after they drill, yeah. Yep.
So we're looking 5 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, 5 to 6 weeks, which was pushed way forward compared to, I mean,
Yeah.
originally it was fall.
Now, are they gonna drill right to the very bottom of the cell?
10 feet above.
10 feet from the bottom of the cell?
Yeah, but when we put the cells in, we put a 10-foot mound of stone.
Right.
Wherever we know the gas wells are at, so as they drill, they hit that stone and then
They're
because
done.
you don't want to hit the liner stone.
No,
No.
please not.
So
how deep
are they gonna drill?
It all depends on where they're gonna be located. Some of them will be, I think the shallowest one is like 30 feet, and then the deepest one is gonna be 70 to 80 feet.
And then as you fill up that active area, you extend them, right?
Yep.
And you do a daily cover in that area?
Yes, oh yeah. Yeah, you work around them.
But when they drill and they quit for the evening, do you put tarps over them, or are they gonna be open all night?
They try not to have them open. They like to drill and set the well, but if they don't have, because they'll work till dark if they have to do that. But if they don't, they got a steel plate that they put over it. A tarp won't work. You need a steel plate. So nobody.
Takes a dive.
If anybody wants to take a walk up there. I hope not.
Well, that's good. The reason you're gonna get odors is you're drilling in material
See
that's
that stone pile sticking up through the
It's 2
garbage?
years.
set down and
There's one
is
there.
decomposing.
That's where they
And
drill
once
down
you
to.
expose it to air,
And they're prepared.
You have-
That's why he doesn't have to do a plan
but
modification.
the upside is, once the wells are in, then you should minimize any odors that could be created. Because you're literally taking the odors, pulling them into the well, along with any leachate or other gases, getting them out of there under control.
So how long does that last?
I'm sorry?
How long does that last then?
The well itself.
Yeah.
The
As long as
installation?
it's there.
Okay.
Yeah. The well should be there for the
And if it fails,
duration. Then you
for
have to go
whatever
and repair
reason, it shifts or it fills with liquid, we redrill it.
But the well will be there for the lifetime
Of the site.
Of the site, and beyond, actually.
So it should permanently control the odor.
Well, it's really not designed to control the odors. It's designed to control the gas, and the gas is the vehicle to move odors. If that makes any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but what,
Because leachate that's a separate well system, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can get leachate in a well, because you're drawing all the
Right.
gas, so the liquid will
Leachate
flow
will
to.
move too.
So we'll drop a pump in the well,
Yeah.
and then we'll
And
pump the
every time they
leachate
pull
out.
gas, the gas is saturated.
So that we get more
So
gas.
they're dumping leachate every time they change temperature or size.
Right.
Where's all that leachate go? We have an on-site force main, it ends up at MMSW, or MMSD.
And it's treated down there.
Yeah. It's all non-haz.
Because these wells aren't a real guarantee that the odor is going away. I mean, there's always going to be some odor, but
That's what I was getting at.
it's got what I thought.
There is no guarantee.
Yeah, between
But
the
the
wells
state,
and
the
the
state
cover,
statute says.
that
I'll
should
guarantee it.
control it.
I'm sorry, I was listening to
Yeah.
both of you.
Between the wells and the cover
Mhm.
that's put on there should control. But notice, should, never will, because there is no expert in the field that will ever say it will control it. But it should control it, and history has proven that that usually is the case. And if it's not, then figure out something else.
But the history of this site is that just in the last year or so, it's been very bad.
Yeah,
And then
getting worse, not better, yeah.
Yeah, and that's because of, as Mike has said in other meetings, that because of the new cell, it just grew faster.
What is the new cell?
That's where the material is currently being placed.
Okay,
We build.
Trucks come in, they go to that cell.
okay.
Because the landfill is built on cells. You fill this area,
Acreage.
complete it.
Okay.
and
If you have a permit of 150 acres to permit your landfill, you may only build 6, 7, 8 acre cells.
Okay.
And then 3 years later, you build another one. 5 years later, you build another one. But they're all roughly from 6 to 8 acres.
That's a management
It's a
tool.
finance thing is what it is, really. That's what it comes down
Okay.
And then once it's
to.
filled
You don't want
up,
to do 150 acres.
explain to them once you fill it up, what you do. What's the finished product? You cap it, you cap
So
it?
you fill it up, you get to a grade that, DNR says you go so deep in a landfill, you go so high. Once you reach that height, then you cap it. So you've got plastic at the bottom, you got 4 feet of clay, plastic and stone. It comes up, let's say you're 65 feet deep like we are here. We fill that up, we get to a grade, above grade, this
Mhm.
grade out here.
Yep.
And then we find that plastic where we brought it up when we dug the hole. And then we tie into that and we put the plastic over the top.
Okay.
So it's a Tupperware bowl when you're done.
Okay,
Nothing in, nothing out.
right, in theory.
Well, nothing out that we're not controlling. So the hill's always under a vacuum after it's capped. The wells are still in place, they're still drawing the gas off.
Okay.
We're still collecting leachate from the bottom. DNR has this thing they call the 3 zeros. 0 leachate, 0 gas, and 0 settlement. So as the organics break down, the landfill settles. So Mike is working very hard to get everything as compact as possible and in place so that when it breaks down, it's done it before he puts that final cap on.
Okay.
But yeah, you'll if they weren't shipping the gas off, you'd see the gas burning for 10, 20 years after the landfill was closed if they had the stick flare.
But after that plastic, then you do put a clay cap on top.
Yep.
Of how deep?
4 feet,
4
up to 8 feet here because we
Yeah.
have the excess of
Yeah.
clay.
So it's not just the plastic up on top.
Oh, no,
I mean,
it's
you-
clay and then top, so
And then
like
you,
that's okay.
and then it's grass and you're mowing it and whatever.
That's
It's a neat little
it's an
diagram
impervious
behind you
clay.
if you want to see what it looks like before you leave. That's how it's constructed and that's how it's finished.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, from the road, everything you see is capped. Now,
Do-
sorry, there's the little piece up there that they keep putting dirt on to dry or something isn't capped, but
Well, isn't that in Franklin, isn't that where that park is, isn't that a basically finished landfill?
let's not use that as an example.
The rock.
The rock?
That's not a
That's not a
requisite.
landfill.
It's
Oh,
not a
is it?
requisite.
No.
It's not a requisite subtitle D landfill.
Oh, okay.
It does not have a liner, and therefore does not have. The laws require that if your liner has a certain permeability, your cap has to be a little less. The idea being that anything that gets in stays in. So you can't really put a solid gas collecting liner over top of these porous landfills.
Like the one in Franklin.
Right. So that is pre-1979, like Pat said. It's a dump. It's a phrase I don't like to use, but it's done to the best of the ability that we have. I mean, it's not like it was not like it was done half-assed, but
It was done the way
Yeah.
it was done in 1979.
right. But this is, we call them sanitary landfills. The base. So I like to think of it as it's the same on top and bottom. So the very bottom is clay, and then there's the plastic, and then we put this what we call a drainage blanket or a gradient layer or a leachate collection zone. Its sole purpose is to keep the leachate off the liner. Everything has some permeability. A well-constructed landfill that keeps 1 foot ahead on the liner will leak 800 gallons per acre per year. It's very little, but we have pumps, so we're always below. Mike's always below 1 foot, so that's even less. Then we place our waste. On the very top, we put a rough layer of garbage, like the fluff layer we start with, and then right away we have another layer of stone to collect gas. So we pull the gas off, and then we slap clay over top of that. And then depending on how serious the landfill designer is, there may be another layer for catching gas. And then we've got the plastic. So Mike said Tupperware. I always like to tell people it's like a Ziploc baggie, on its side. You have sealed it up all the way around. And when it's all done, it's never opened again. So you collect liquids on the bottom and gases on the top. If you
Ziplocs leak.
What?
Ziplocs leak.
So it's Tupperware.
Not really.
Not if you're burping, right?
And just say it's Tupperware.
Okay.
Just don't buy the cheap Ziploc.
Right.
The issue is,
Don't buy them at the top.
when you close a landfill or cells, there virtually is no odor coming off those because they are really well entombed. It's active areas where you're still receiving waste and modifications to active areas and further expansions and connecting into other side slopes. That's where the issues come. They don't come from a closed, capped area. We've got closed, capped 1, 2, and 3, and in 1, there's nothing in there to create an odor. It's all concrete and wood, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Nothing
Only
in there.
Stadium is in 3, 2 and 3.
There.
And the Bradley Center's in.
Going in today.
So the Bradley Center stinks.
Blame the city of Milwaukee.
It's all that barbecue sauce and mustard. But after a landfill is, quote, completed, it still must be monitored, what is it now, 25?
40
Is up to
years.
40 years? It has to be, it's monitored for 40 years beyond that.
Because when you cap it and close it, you still have the wells drawing air,
Correct.
gas, or whatever out.
Yeah, but
And
it's
you
not
still-
coming up in
and
the
leachate.
survey, it's all underground, right?
So there's an ongoing monitoring.
And just in case you're worried about your children, it's 40 or more. So it
Right.
has to, the state still has to come
Minimum.
along and say, okay, you're closed. If they're still generating gas, still generating leachate, the state will not allow them to enter into what we call complete closure.
Interesting.
Was it getting close to an hour, Rolly? You working us towards the door?
You ain't
But I
getting
need
all
new
of it.
shoes.
Okay. Has this helped answer some of your questions?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense as to what's going on. I guess I'll be interested to see where we're at in the middle of May.
That's going to be the next key, is once these wells have been functional for a time period, then we start to see, was it effective?
Sure.
Is it effective?
So this is addressing the issues that we've known about prior to this.
One thing when they put the wells in that I found interesting a couple weeks ago was when he turns the vacuum on, that vacuum's not going to pull a great deal right at the beginning.
Right.
Because you're afraid of pulling oxygen with it.
You nailed it.
You pull too much vacuum at one time right away.
Because it's
they,
new.
They can wreck those lines right away.
Okay.
Well, it creates an explosive environment, is what it does.
O2 burns real good.
Oxygen and methane.
So you gotta give them a little time for those things to really come up and go.
It does even worse than that. The gas is generated by anaerobic bacteria, no oxygen. If somehow Mike draws oxygen into the hill, it'll kill off the anaerobic. It has to go back to aerobic. Mike's system isn't designed to manage aerobic gases. He can still pull it off, but now he no longer has methane he can sell to the MMSD. And he doesn't have anything he can flare, so he has to add gas to flare off the odors. So if he actually gets the hill to flip aerobic, well, then it's a whole different problem. Then it goes back to anaerobic, and then they run it again. So the slow draw up is very important. Though it's a little faster with horizontal wells, or vertical wells, my apologies. The previous wells that we put in are horizontal.
Yeah,
they're only
feet.
7 to 8 feet below grade.
Okay.
This at least is straight down. He only has to worry about the upper 9 feet or so.
Can't rush it.
That's why I'm here, just to understand what's going on.
Okay, has this helped at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike, are you still planning on doing tours in July?
Sure, it's an annual thing.
It's our annual tour, so.
Oh, serious,
if
you
you
want, it's
do,
an interesting operation to see.
Sure, you
if
get
you
one
want
there.
to show up,
July 1st.
It's important that you let Mike know if you do want to show up for a tour of the landfill, because
We don't make you walk.
it's done in vehicles, and typically, right now, he has one van.
Okay.
But if there's a number of people from the community that want to go, it's going to mean more vehicles.
Sure.
Otherwise, you'd just be standing here waiting for
Next
something.
year is gonna be a challenge. Every vehicle that can haul a person is gonna be called for in mid-July.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right.
JSA will
Every
have
I'll have to get a
bus
bus.
and
For what?
short buses and
What's that?
everything.
DNC.
Oh,
Oh, that's right. It's-
Everything is gonna be.
We'll move it. We won't do it in July.
That's my, I think, a very good
Good
idea.
idea.
You can do it this time of year.
Yeah.
Fine.
Well,
Right about
Good
this.
point.
Even late June or at the end of July, we work fine. But,
Maybe you should buy a van and rent it to DNC.
run tours.
There you go. Bring them out here.
Running on methane.
Yeah, there you go.
So not to get you guys off
Yep.
site, but I'm just kind of curious, you seem like you're the guy who's sort of running the landfill here. I'm just curious what everybody else's roles are, or who everybody is.
We're all citizens committee. It's a citizens
Okay,
committee.
okay,
And we represent different constituencies.
okay,
I represent Franklin because we're across the street.
Yep.
We're what is known as an affected community.
sure,
Raleigh is.
Town of Norway.
Town of Norway,
okay,
Racine County.
Racine County,
okay,
Alderman for the area.
perfect.
Waukesha County.
Waukesha County,
I'm the Public Works and Development Director for the city of Muskego. And acting-
and our chairman of the committee,
Muskego.
Muskego, our consultant,
Muskego,
Muskego resident,
Muskego.
Muskego resident,
Cool.
and Mike, of course, is the manager of the facility.
Okay.
And just
you
to be
get-
clear, I'm the committee's consultant, not the landfills.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're from Wind Lake. So I have two questions. One is about the compost you were talking about.
Mhm.
Is that a public compost area?
It's, yeah. You
No,
mean to drop
not-
off?
Not for
Yeah.
Wind Lake.
Drop off.
For drop-off only.
Not for Wind Lake?
Not for the town of
You would
Norway.
take your stuff to Waste Management.
You gotta take it across the road.
And there is a public compost there for Wind Lake.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Because people are asking about that.
Define
She's telling
public. Public drop-off,
Yeah,
yes. But
Okay.
I don't,
But not public connect,
You have
collection.
to sign in every time you come in.
but you
because
can't.
people are asking about that in Wind Lake, like where can they compost?
Tell them to call the Town of Norway Town Hall. They
Okay.
got a schedule there, when it's open and whatever, and what you can take.
Great, we'll do that, and then I'll
Mhm.
put that information out there.
It's also in your newsletter, usually in your monthly newsletters
Okay.
too.
I'll look
So,
at that.
okay.
I don't think I've ever read one of those from beginning to end.
I read it.
Do you read it?
At least somebody reads it.
There are some funny stories in there, though, I have to say.
She haven't had much compost.
Those are always the challenges. Franklin does a quarterly newsletter, and they put all the stuff in there, all the contact numbers, and people
Go
say,
online.
well, don't you read your newsletter?
We should.
Oh,
really-
that I just throw
We
it
should
out.
put it in their tax bill.
Oh,
Then
right,
they
'cause
have
they really
to
want to
read
read it
it.
then.
One more question with regards to that. So Franklin, affected community, how does it work with Waste Management? Muskego,
Yes.
Norway across the road, we're the affected community going to their meetings?
Yep.
Like, that's a completely
They have
different
another
site.
committee just
They got a
like this,
committee
right?
just like
Let me-
this, over there.
And the guy sitting next to you goes to their meetings.
Okay.
Why
You're
is
still
there
an
two
affected,
separate
you're still
companies?
an affected municipality. It's the host community and everything that touches it. That's why these two landfills are so unique in the fact that it's 3 counties and all the residents. So, but it's a different committee, but it has some of the same people serving on it, such as Harvey.
Sure.
Why are there two different companies?
Why?
Yeah,
It's like McDonald's and Burger King.
Yeah.
No different.
okay,
Let's keep them together.
You-
okay.
The history
What-
of it, that site.
Because it's not a public company, it's a private company? Okay.
Yes.
Uh, That site was started back in, what, the 30s?
50s.
With Lyle. It was a
Lyle
private
Knight.
individual that had
Lyle
some
Knight.
area in the back, and he let people dump in the back. And then he sold it to an individual who built up a hauling company and called Metro, and then Metro sold to Waste Management.
Okay.
And this site, one of the reasons you've got 2 sites literally next door to each other
Right,
is geologically, these are the best areas to do that.
right.
Clay.
It has
Clay?
impervious clay
Oh, okay.
and very deep
Yeah.
clay. How deep is your clay, Dale?
120-some feet.
The thinnest part is 250 that the landfill's over, both sides. Well, there's 3 landfills. There's a landfill just to the north. There's this site across the street.
So what are the advanced disposal, waste management, and what's the third?
Future Parkland, it's been closed for a long time. It's just
Yeah.
monofil, it's
Briggs and
ash.
Stratton and
Yeah.
then we
Right.
It was
That was
After
the
they
site
filter
for.
Strictly
it out,
sand.
It's just called a monofill, it's just foundry sand. No
just
different.
foundry sand that came out of Briggs and Stratton.
Where is that located, though?
Just north.
In the north.
See the
That
big
way.
hill through the window?
Points there,
That's
points there.
That's
Just there.
that's a soil stockpile. That is not the landfill. The landfill doesn't even raise up high enough for us to see from here.
Okay,
They didn't mound it up, they just filled in a shallow area.
but that one's already capped, that one's done, or is
Done,
it
done,
potentially
and
never
done.
Open?
And there's a
And it
deed
only had one
restriction.
type of waste.
Yeah, and there's a deed restriction that prohibits the placement of additional waste.
Okay. With regards to the property that you guys own here, you said up to the power lines currently is what is owned, or that's as far as the permit would go? Would you be
Permitted.
buying more property?
No, the
right
permit
there?
doesn't even take them that far,
Okay.
okay? You
Do we
want to
own
know
land?
how far it possibly could go, well, that's
To be
west
discovered.
is probably the limit unless economics change and it becomes economical to move power lines. Becomes that $1 million is not a constraining factor anymore. $1 million per
Oh.
pole.
Would there be anything to stop you from ending and then starting again?
Technically, that's a different, yeah.
You
I
like
I
to
would
be
tell you they
back.
wouldn't do that, but they're doing it across the street. No, their new cell is not attached. Different companies, I know that.
No. The reason why is because, I don't want to get too much, but they would have to lay over on a hazardous waste site.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing though is they've also moved the power poles twice at Waste Management. So the power poles are a good argument, but again, the economics can shock you.
Yeah.
You know, they can end up doing it. It really comes down to what the state's going to allow and how hard the landfill can push. And to be honest, with my view of it, this is the area to place landfills. So supporting the expansion here and limiting it in other locations that don't have the geology. Like I said, I'm not saying it's going to run right up to your back door.
Right.
But I mean, I would rather see a landfill placed here, and I realize you're a nearby homeowner, so that may not be what you like.
Sure.
But this has the better chance for success than some of the landfills on thinner clay or. So I can see this area of having more support for greater expansion.
But I doubt if you'd ever see one south of the county line, Racine County line. That would be the.
Well, there's all those houses there already.
Because I don't think Racine County would ever let them go at the.
Yeah, but you got a little thing called Madison,
Yeah.
and they can usurp
Yeah.
county, they can usurp municipalities, and there is laws in place right now that take a lot of the local yay or nay away from municipalities, because the reality very quickly was learned, there's virtually no communities. Yeah, let's bring a landfill here.
Right.
Right.
And, you know, there is a greater need to have someplace to go with it.
Sure.
And so the state can override a county, override a city. And the flip side is they gave some things like monitoring committees and host agreements and things like that.
So just still to understand,
Mhm.
your 150 acre site, is that what we have?
130.
130? And we build in like 6 to 8 acre cells, it sounds like?
And the state regulates it as you can't operate a cell for more than 15 years. So
Okay.
they're all designed based on a 15-year life. But once you've started with one cell and you have what we call an overlay, where the next cell actually, instead of having separate piles, and so you have a contiguous kill, they overlay. So at some point you're building a cell within the 15 years that the other cell is operating. So, but the basic of the size is based on the waste coming in and the compaction.
Okay.
So it shifts around. We get better compaction now, so that the cells are getting smaller.
So Mike, hypothetically speaking, as we talk about how far this can expand, can you let them know what kind of time frame you'd be looking at to get, say, to expand to, say, Harvey's Farm, which is a long way from Wind Lake yet? 20 years?
To get
30
to
years?
to get to Harvey's Farm?
Yeah.
You sell them?
Depends on what-
Oh, yeah, you're looking at
there's all this economics.
Well, currently, under our current permit, our current expansion that we have, I think we're at about 20 years.
Okay.
20 to 25 years. That's without going any further west at all. So to go further
Right.
west to Harvey, you're probably looking 40.
50, yeah.
40
long
years
time.
out.
And that's what I just wanted to point out to them, as we talk about moving in that
Yeah.
direction.
It's not 2
a
weeks.
long way off.
Okay, so we're talking 20 years essentially to fill to the power lines.
No.
Yes, and we're not even,
Yeah,
our
just
expansion
far.
doesn't go that far.
No.
Yeah.
When we're done, I'll show you. There's a flyover
Perfect.
right there.
Perfect.
I'll
Thank
show
you.
you exactly where we're at.
For my last comment on it, the technology's changing.
Sure.
So I would like to see no organics in landfills in my lifetime, which is not
See what?
anybody- no organics. No organics. We're reducing what goes into a landfill by 65%. So that'll reduce the size of the landfill and the speed at which it grows. We still need landfills. We've got even the high end of waste management, there's still a requirement for landfills. But in 20 years, I should hope that we're at least turning organics into energy today and not letting it sit in a hill and generate gas off of it. So,
Well, it's turning into energy, whether it's in the hill or whether it's someplace else.
but there's efficiency and never mind. Like I said, it's my dream.
I just think 20 years
That's an optimistic goal.
is
I share that dream.
just,
Well, you're
Thank
not
you
saying
guys
I
for
won't be
taking
alive
the
still
time
in
to
20
explain
years?
stuff to us.
oh, no.
Yeah.
I just think 20 years is too short.
There was an effort in the 70s in Milwaukee there's a plant called Americology, where they were going to take all, and build a fuel, what they call a refuse-derived fuel, and burn it at the Oak Creek power plant. And they could never get the quality of the fuel to the point where it was economic to do that. Sure. But that's, again, economics change. And, you know, as things keep going and you see banning of plastic bags and straws and all that kind of stuff, those are all different efforts to reduce the waste stream.
Well, just take a look at what happened in the last 50 years from the old night landfill to what it is now with the DNR regulations and whatever, and the capping and the gas recirculation. It's unbelievable in 50 years how far it's come. And you've been involved with it, Mike, for quite a few years, so.
Almost 50.
Well, not quite. I wasn't going to say that.
So some of the original ways of handling it is if the pile got too high, you just kind of lit it on Sunday. And it burned away.
If the wind was right.
Well, Lyle brought in pigs.
Because when you come to see that, you see it's coming into the tidal area.
Anything else on odors, questions?
I do have another question.
Go ahead.
Somebody was mentioning water quality that perked my ears up.
Sure.
How is our well water in this area? Is this affecting the quality of our water or
That's why we
toxins in our
test.
water? Okay.
And
And should we be testing our own wells at our house?
I
you're not
I
in
wouldn't
our
be
area.
concerned about it.
You
I
would-
do the well sampling across the street
Okay.
for that committee.
Okay.
And I get to see the report for this one. So there have been what we call J flags where the contaminant is there,
Okay.
but it's not to a volume that we can actually say how much. Just enough that the devices we use indicate that it's present. So it can't be at a dangerous level because we'd be able to measure that because we've defined the dangerous levels.
The water store in Wind Lake does testing for that. If you
I'm
bring
sorry,
it.
what?
The water store in Wind Lake,
The water
They'll
store,
test
and
the
when
water
they'll test our water? Oh, okay. Where's that?
it's right between
It's right south of Kelly.
filling station, just past the
Oh,
church
you know where it is?
and
Okay.
Kelly's bleachers.
And they'll do
Yeah, I
that?
think
But
they have
your
a sign.
question also raises something. The entire landfill on landfill property has monitoring wells as well, where they're testing to make sure that nothing's going off-site. But we have gone beyond that and have
35 wells on each
35
side.
wells a year.
Year.
we test.
A year, 35 wells a year on each side of the road.
And they're tested and they're okay?
They're tested for 235 different contaminants plus secondary federal drinking standards, which are iron, manganese, sodium, calcium, and pH.
Okay.
And I missed a couple, I apologize. This area is high in
Iron.
sulfates and iron. And iron discolors the water, gives it
Right.
a taste. Sulfates can have an effect on your digestive tract, but it's not really not your water, it's how your water compares to other places you may drink water. So if your sulfates are high in your home when you drink, relatively low sulfate water at work or something, you may have a gastrointestinal reaction,
Okay.
or vice versa.
Okay.
So, but normally after one testing, we're able to tell people right away if their sulfates are high or low.
Which
But that's-
has nothing to do with the
Right.
landfill.
That
It's
comes from the rock that they
the
fractured
natural
to put
ground.
the-
But it wouldn't be a bad idea to test your well because there are other things. What's
They had
that
to have
one
it tested when it was bought.
Yeah.
But that's only a sanitary water
Probably
test.
tested
That's
when we were
not.
there.
What's the one that we
I don't
periodically
recall
find
that,
and the
Lithium?
well has to be treated?
E. coli.
Oh, yeah, bacteria.
Bacteria.
You know, just checking for bacteria.
Yeah.
If you're on a municipal water supply, they're checking that constantly. But on a private well, it's not a bad idea to
Right.
check it once in a while. And once in a while, maybe yearly or something like that, just to make sure.
It's not expensive.
The reality is the vast majority of private well owners never test it. and they probably have never had a problem. But, you know, if
You
you,
got a baby on the way, I'd test it.
Yeah.
It
But
was
doesn't hurt.
It was just tested not too long.
And it's usually, what usually happens is you find out that there's bacteria in your well because you had a guest, and your guest gets sick. Because more often than not, the bacteria is from you. You know, so it's not that surprising that you shrug it off or don't have any impact, but somebody new to your home might be impacted.
Interesting.
We tested it, there was enough stuff in there that I typically don't drink the water.
And that's the other thing. If you do have a bacteria hit, have an actual licensed well driller take care of it. If you over or under chlorinate, you can contaminate your well.
Okay.
So, and that's not something you really want to deal with. We have that when we do the well sampling. We'll have wells that have chlorine compounds in it, that it's only the one well. And a couple phone calls with the owner, you know, it turns out they decided that they bought a couple gallons of industrial bleach at Fleet Farm and dumped it down the well to deal with an odor or something.
Oh my.
But
We do have.
to
an
take
odor.
away a little bit of Joe's fire here, commercial, the DNR puts out a pamphlet
Yes.
that tells you exactly how to
chlorinate your well.
decontaminate your well.
Go hire a well professional.
Or you can spend a lot of money and hire Joe's
I'm not a well
professional.
professional. I don't chlorinate wells. I wasn't out for myself. Only already took the meeting past an hour. I'm good.
I actually had my well cleaned, and it probably was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah?
Because I consistently was getting bacteria hits when they did the well sampling.
Okay.
So I had them come and clean my well. They're
Okay.
gonna they drop a cup down and they spent all day doing it, and it's been 4 years now, and nothing has been a hit
We
anymore.
have an odor. There's an odor to our water, kind of sulfurish.
But I think
Yeah.
that's probably common in Wind Lake.
Call the water store, they'll fix you up.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
Okay, good, because I can't stand that.
Shovel.
smell.
yeah. You call the
Well,
water
like,
store.
I'm used to it now, but my guests really smell.
No, water store will take care of that, and they'll get rid of that sulfur smell for you.
But also, doesn't our water, our drinking water flow from west to east around here?
your drinking water flows west to east, but the drinking water over there flows east to west. This is the sink.
Okay.
This is the bottom.
This is where the water flows to.
What Harvey was,
That's one of the reasons.
the water movement underground,
guys,
that
this
is where
meeting
you're
over
living,
with?
it's actually coming from the west,
Mark,
coming this
Is this
way.
meeting over with?
Oh,
or what?
okay.
So,
No,
So it's
not
going
officially,
this
no.
way there.
Come on, Raleigh, we're pushing for 2 hours.
You're hungry, huh?
Well, that's certainly
I know it is.
reassuring.
We get paid.
Huh?
I was
Very
believing it
reassuring.
myself when I found that out.
What can we do to educate the community
I'm gonna fall
about
asleep.
composting and,
Read your newsletter.
I was gonna
that's
say,
part of
read your
it.
newsletter?
you put out a newsletter for,
Neon color.
oh, okay.
And like, I really noticed, like, I came from a different area, and like, when you go to the restaurants here,
Oh.
they give you all that foam stuff, and
Oh.
it's like they don't seem to, nobody around here seems to be educated with what to, you know, to use recyclable materials and all that kind of stuff.
We're getting a little bit off now.
Oh, sorry.
It's a topic.
Yeah, we're into
Sorry.
We've got to come
Thought
back.
it was sharing time.
It is, and you can share after we close the meeting.
Whoever wants to stick around should like to share. No offense.
Is Sunny coming soon? Sunny and Cher?
And the music market.
Okay, review payments from committee funds. There was a one-sheet thing on the back. Anybody have any questions?
No.
Joe, as much as I appreciate you telling me no, it's no difference. Confirm the next meeting date, July 1st. That is the tour date. Where does that fit into the DNC stuff?
That's next year.
Next year.
Next year.
Next
2020.
year. We're okay this
We're
year.
good.
Okay. 4 p.m. July 1st is the tour. The meeting starts at 5 p.m. in here. So if your people from the neighborhood want to attend the tour, they've got to let Mike know. Communications and any other business is authorized by law. Okay, citizen commentary. We have had that.
Move to adjourn.
I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Somebody say, there we go. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Yep. The heck, that,
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Huh?
No, it's to get up. That's always my problem.
It's like people who move in by airplane. People move in, we've had this issue back. People move in by
See you,
airplane,
gentlemen.
they complain about the airplane.
Thank you, sir.
My best story is, guy was telling me, he just went to the very nice lady.
Good job, Monica, it's all great.
Has their house a band
You have.
you can read all of the names on the bottom of the plane. It's right there.
Not one of them.
I forget. Sure. And he started, Rebecca started.
Because they want
Everything's bothering me.
all of the MAA go away.